Edge of Eternity releases this Friday, and thanks to our friends at Superscripts Comics and Games, we're getting our hands on some product a little early, building a pre-release deck for you guys. So if you see anything in these packs that you like, be sure to head down the description, click that link, and pick it up from the store. And on that note, I'm going to walk you guys through exactly what I do for every single pre-release. Step-by-step deck building instructions so you can build a good deck when it comes to pre-releases Friday. That always starts off with being efficient with your time. The best thing I suggest is just start putting them in piles in terms of color pie order, right? So you got your colorless, you go green, you have multicolored over there, colorless over here for your artifacts, stuff like that. You just make piles. Just make piles. That way you can get a good general idea of what kind of cards you have, like what kind of pile is biggest, and which colors to potentially start with first. Bigger is sometimes always better. You know, don't waste your time with a stack of cards that doesn't have enough creatures or isn't big enough to build a deck from. So that's why I like just cracking packs, making stacks, and starting that way instead of just getting too far into building a deck and realizing you don't have enough resources to actually build the deck, which would not be fun to come across, right? Ooh, first rare. Elevator. Boom, bam. We're not paying attention to any of the cards, honestly. You don't want to. Don't get distracted. Make your piles. Maybe the Dragon Brave kill. Boom, boom, boom. So are we liking the set? Another good thing to do is like familiarize yourself with the set. Go through, take a look at Scryfall, and just read through some of the cards so you have an idea of what you're looking at before the set. However, I do know some of you like to come in blind, which is fair. 100%. You can still use all the strategies with deck building this way. Ooh, Dust Bowl, fancy card. And Void Altar, also a fancy card, to build your deck, right? You don't need to know the cards in order to build a good deck or to build a deck and participate inside of the pre-release. I just suggest it because it speeds things up, right? You have an idea of what you're looking at, what they kind of synergize with, what they say, instead of having to read the cards over and over and over again. Just helps you out a little bit, you know? All right, cool. Those are the piles. And I can say with some good certainty that Gruul kind of looks like the best color pairing just from stacks alone. But what I do like to do is I like to check lands first and see if there's any fixing, which we did not get. Unfortunately, we have 2 non-basic lands inside the pack, so not really any fixing available to us. So that means we're going to be reliant on basic lands by themselves, right? So then, after we check our lands, we're going to go for multicolored. And unfortunately, we have multicolored that's not in the Gruul identity, but we have 2 Rakdos, which is kind of a good sign, right? We got a rare and we got a uncommon, which means we have some things that'll lend to that support. So we could start there. We do have 2 Rakdos, and we do have a fairly good red pile, which means it could supplement B between the 2. So since we have these, I will actually start with Rakdos. That way we have more potential for good synergies. I did not check to see if we have anything fixing-wise in here. We do have colorless, and we do have a mana rock, it looks like, at All Fate Scroll for 3 mana. A little expensive, but that's something to keep in mind. We got this Warp guy, but nothing crazy. No direct filtering. And if we go with black, we can use this, which allows us to pay life, sacrifice a creature, and draw some cards. If we go in the Rakdos or just any black deck. So first things first, we'll start with black. When it comes to looking through your colors, look for duplicates. Because duplicates make things consistent. And when you have a consistent deck, you win games. Swarm Caller, Grave Kill, Voto, Swarm Caller. So we had 2 Swarm Callers, it looks like. It's 4 mana, 2/4. Right. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you may sacrifice another creature or artifact and draw a card. Okay. Any other? No. It does not appear so. No, we have Decoded Transmissions. We have 2 of those. Draw 2 cards, lose 2 life. So you have quite a bit of card draw when it comes to this situation, which is kind of nice. The downside to that, that's the wrong card. Downside of that is it's decently expensive at 3 mana, and you're fairly reliant on your life. There's a lot of loss of life to draw these cards, and if you're not fast enough, you could get knocked out of the rink pretty quickly by using that too much life in that situation. We do have some exiles. We have other versions of destroy, so we have some good removal. We do have 2 sentries, which are 4/1 defenders, to stock some big swings, but it only has 1 toughness, so it could backfire in our direction, but it's still duplicates. Virus Beetle and Grave Blade Heavy. As long as you control an artifact, this creature gets +1/+0, so it becomes a 4/4 with Death Touch. And when this guy enters for 2 mana, each opponent discards a card. Not super reassuring, but we do have some duplicates, and we do have a decent base when it comes to it. If red shines through right now, it honestly might be possible. First things first, again, check for duplicates. Nebula Dragon, Evasive Maneuvers, Drill 2D, Brig, Bombard. I think we have 2 reds. 2 Nebula Dragons. Alright. I think that's it. I think that's all for duplicates. Nope, I lied. Slag Drill. Slag Drill is a duplicate. Swarden, Frontline Rager, Rig, Bombard. Okay. Just double checking those over there. Nope. So these are duplicates right off the rip. So we have a 4 mana, 3/3, or Warp 2 haste. So we can warp this out, turn 2, swing, do something. For 7 mana, we have a nice top end, it looks like. Whenever this creature enters, deals 3 damage to any target, so it could remove a creature, or you could just hit your opponent directly in the face for a potential finisher. 3 damage is nothing to scoff at, but it is 7 mana, which makes it pretty expensive. Then Slag Drill Scraper here, sacrifice another artifact, draw a card. Not super heavy in the artifact department, so I don't know how to feel about that. Let's talk about cards of note. Possibility Technician, Warp 2. Whenever this creature enters or another Kavu who you control enters, exile the top card of your library. For as long as it remains exiled, you may play as long as you control a Kavu. We have a couple soldiers. We have a Kavu soldier, another Kavu soldier. So it seems that we could take advantage of that because we have a decent number of Kavus. These are not, unfortunately, Kavus, so it doesn't really do too much for our multicolored creatures here. This creature enters if a non-land permanent left this turn or a warp spell is cast, exile up to 1 target instant or sorcery card mana value 2 or less from graveyard, copy it, and be cast with paying its mana cost. So we can get another potential removal spell if we have something in the 2 or less department. Create a lander token. +1/+1. We have a 2 mana instant. 3 damage to target creature, 5 damage to spacecraft. So we have some instant speed removal. Drill 2 deep for some spacecrafts. Put 5 charge counters on it. Destroy target artifact. Rig for war. Little combat trick. Buntar. Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, exile cards from top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast it this turn. So you'll, a 6/6 reach gets you some cards off the top, and you potentially grab another spell for you to play. Ruinous Rampage, 3 damage to each opponent, exile artifacts, mana value 3 or less, so you could get rid of some artifacts that are on the board that are pesky or something along those lines. Bombard, you just deal 4 damage straight up to a creature. So we have some very solid removals. However, I don't feel like the creature base for this color pair is fleshed out enough. Feels very high in terms of those kind of creatures. We could see if we can supplement it with some spacecraft, but I don't think we have anything low end enough for it. No, it's all high end. As great as this seems, I don't think we can afford this kind of curve, right? This curve seemed a little too heavy, too far in, too much on this side, and we don't have any fixing, and we don't have any ways to rush. So I think I will probably move on to a different color pair. I'm not confident with it. And if you're not confident with it, you shouldn't force it. So it just affects how you play, right? So Rakdos is out. We have a pretty good stack for red, so maybe we just pick up green and see what Gruul has to offer. Or we also have an okay black stack that if we need to, we could supplement and then run this. But not a whole lot of sacrifice, not a whole lot of mill in the black stack, so that's also probably not. So see what we can do here. First things first, like I said, let's grab dupes. Shattered Wings. I actually think that might be it. Wow. Yeah, unfortunately, it's it. There is no other duplicate. Darn. Oh well. We'll just run through what we got. Sammy's Curiosity. Gain 2 life, create a lander token. So a little bit of a turn 1, gain some life, then create a lander token so you can rush out basic land turn 2. Let's go Greenhouse, +1/+1 on each creature you control, which would be a nice finisher if we have a bunch of creatures out. This creature enters with X +1/+1 counters on it. When this creature leaves the battlefield, put its counter on another target creature, and it has also has the X warp cost. So we could warp out for 2 and put a +1/+1 counter on other creatures. Gear enters, attaches to target creature you control +2/+1 till and has reach. And it has equip 5, which is really expensive, so that's probably just out. Shattered Wings, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying, surveil 1, removal. Or Ouroborid Plant Worm. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the creature's power. That could be something if we have enough consistent creatures, which could be done with this engineering card with landfall. Warp it out, put a land down, create a 2/2 robot, and then turn 5, drop lands and make bigger robots. That's a potential synergy that we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of +1/+1 counters here, and seeing that and knowing what we know, +1/+1 counters is a very Selesnya thing, which is making me think, seeing this support in green, that we should take a look at Selesnya really quick. Because I'm not seeing synergies for Rakdos or Gruul or green and black Golgari. I'm not seeing too many synergies there, but what I'm seeing in this green stack, I'm fairly confident that Selesnya might have some answers for us. And we'll go there. We'll go there first. So we have Radiant Strikes. We're looking for removal and duplicates. We have 3 Radiant Strikes, 4 mana removal. That's expensive. Any other dupes? It does not seem like we have other duplicates. However, I'm seeing if we need to, 4 mana removal exists. Not ideal. That's a very expensive removal spell. And it also has a pretty decent stipulation that it has to be a tapped creature. So, not ideal. But let's see what else we have. Skiff, Banishing Light is also a removal spell. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, surveil 1. That's pretty solid. Creatures go get +1/+1 till end of turn with double strike. We had a couple of those, that'd be very nice, which unfortunately we don't. But if we get +1/+1 counters on that, that'd be pretty potent. Rescue Skiff enters, return target creature or enchantment from your graveyard to the battlefield, which will be cool if we end up losing Oribrid there. Pull that back out. Focus Fire deals X damage to target attacking creature where X is the X +2, the number of creatures and or spacecraft control. So there's a 1 mana removal at instant speed. Seam Rip is also a control spell, 2 mana value or less on the battlefield. This will make us some robots to buff up. When this creature enters, return up to 1 target permanent you control to its owner's hand. So we have a bounce that we could potentially take advantage of here. And then we just have a 2 mana station. Other creatures you get are +1/+1. We could just build big creatures. And I'm honestly tempted to explore that option because I think that's kind of our best answer right now. So let's fill out what we have here. Let's take the time and create our stacks of costing. So we got 3 mana, 1 mana, go over here, and 4 mana, that's 6 mana. Is this one good? Yeah, it's 4 mana. We'll put that one down. I don't think this Light Blade will be played. When it enters, attach it to a target creature. That creature gains first strike until end of turn, 1 mana. If you're dealing with combat tricks where you might need it, you could sideboard that in, but I'm not too worried about it. Curiosity will help us get there, casting big spells. With the Lander tokens, this will just put a +1/+1 counter on creatures we control for 5 mana. Fungal Colossal, the spell costs X less, where X is the number of differently named lands you control. Won't be very good for us because we only have potentially 2 lands with different names. We could put Dustbowl in there, potentially 3. So it'll come down to a 4 mana cost, but realistically, to cast this, it would be 5 mana. So it would be a 5 mana 5/5, which is on par for solid costing. Brutally gives her +1/+1 counters. That could be 2 or more. So we'll put that down there. It has to be at least 3, actually. So we have to cast it for at least 3 for solid cost. That way it comes in with a +1/+1 counter. But we could warp it for 2. Shattered Wings, 3 mana. Ouroboros, 4 mana. This is 4 mana. Engineering is 5. Tenderfoot, 2. Brick's Fate Maker. Enters, put a +1/+1 counter target creature. Each creature you control the +1/+1 counter is trample. Be a nice finisher for 4 potential. Close Encounters is a removal spell, deals damage equal to the power of the chosen creature. Control or a warped creature you control in exile. Okay, that's kind of weird. I had to read that a couple times in order to make sense of it. Gene Pollinator, tap and untap permanent you control, add mana. Probably not. When this creature enters, attach it to target creature and reach. Again, in the probably not pile. Review stations really quick. 6 mana. When this creature leaves the battlefield, draw a card and then puts a permanent card mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Could cheat something out. So this will help cast things. When this creature is put in the graveyard, draw a card. Well, that's a 7 mana removal. I'm not really vibing with too much. If we need high end, I'd probably pick these just for the 10 damage straight to the creature's face. For removal spells, and then 7 flyer. It's good costing. The downside is it's stationed, so you got to tap things to get it up there. And if we're running a lot of +1/+1 counters, we could potentially do that fairly efficiently, potentially. So let's start breaking this down. First things first is we need creatures. So let's pull all non-creatures and build a deck that is focused around 24, 16-ish creatures and see where we get there. The reason why you pick 16 creatures is because the magical formula is 24 or 23-17, and then you do 7 or 8 non-lands. That's kind of depending on what you want. Banishing Lights is a non-creature. These are all creature spells. Creature, artifacts, instances. This will go over here. Enchantment, this will go over here. I don't know if I want to include our spacecrafts as creatures, because they're not creatures right away, and that could really, really mess things up, I have a feeling. Which puts us down to not a lot of creatures. Like at all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 creatures. That's not good. That's not good at all. We are 7 creatures short, which makes me think that we might have to go tricolor. Oh no. Alright, we're doing this live. Let's check out blue. Diverter, Atomizer, Jammer, Operative, put a +1/+1 counter in this creature. So that could have some potential synergy because we're doing +1/+1 counters. Any others? Let's hope we have a couple more of those, right? And not so lucky. Okay. Boo. Defender. Whenever another creature you control enters, create a 2/2. Not really doing the whole creature thing. Starbreach Whale. Surveil 2. When the creature enters, you may sacrifice an artifact. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control and draw a card. That's not good. Okay, after some off-camera deliberation, I went through the cards that we have, and the amount of creatures that we have access to is very, very tight. And the next highest creature count that we could possibly get looks like red. So we're going to have to supplement with red, no matter what. Like, it's a forced situation. We're going to have to make the best of it. We just got unlucky, it looks, with our packs. We're going to aim for our +1/+1 counter theme as much as possible, but we're going to add in these 2 red merchants because we can warp them out at 3/3s for 2 mana. So no matter what, we can get a creature out to do something, potentially swing if we need to be aggressive. Not a fan of this Void because we're not doing a lot of artifact things. This 5 mana card here could help us potentially with a +1/+1 counter theme. But I'm not super confident in it. We have this War Rager at 3 mana that does a +1/+1 counter thing, but we need tapped creatures at the end step. And since we're in this situation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We need... I might honestly hold at 13 creatures and then put in 3 stations in their place, potentially. Like, let's do this here. This will take us up to... Actually, that's perfect. This will take us up to 16. We'll supplement with 3 stations. We have a really high end in mid range. Like, this is a drastic skew, right? Move these off to the side. We're not going to play them. But what this boils down to is we need solid landfalls and we need solid draws. I'm sorry, not solid draws. We need solid ramp. So we are definitely running 2 of these curiosities so we can create some lander tokens for 2 of our 7 non-land cards. On top of that, we should probably include Drill 2 Deep for the 5 charge counters on target's spacecraft or planet, so we can force those up or potentially destroy a target artifact that we don't like. That'll be 3. Ooh, this is so much fun. I'm not too worried about these direct spells here. This has a lander. This 3 mana, create a lander token, then sacrifice an artifact. When you do, it deals 2 damage to each creature. That could force a weird situation because we don't have too many artifacts that aren't going to be landers. And if we have lander tokens, we want to use them for getting lands. Right? So we're probably going to move away from those. In terms of removal, we can use Bombard at 3 mana. Then we can use 1, 2, 3, 4. Then Seam Rip at 5 for grabbing 2 mana value or less for removal. Focus Fire for removal at 1 mana seems like a good choice. And then 3 mana removal again, unfortunately. So 4, 5, 6. I'm sorry, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think that's going to be our best choice. We could sneak in 5 mana landfall here for warp and push for more robots, but that's going to be late game. And at that point, is it enough to save you? But we could warp it in at 2 and potentially sneak one in turn 3 to get a robot token there. Then it's just 2 turns away, hopefully, if you're not missing land drops, to start getting more landfall triggers off of that. So I think that's going to have to be the deck. This is unfortunately more of a forced situation than anything. So there's not a lot of strategy. It's kind of like the situation that you'll be put in pre-releases where you might just not get the cards that you need. It's a lot of making the best of what you have situation. And with these spacecrafts being so prominent inside the set, we're going to be put into these weird situations. So what I'm thinking is going for a solid creature base and then sprinkling in these spacecrafts. So going for like 13, like I said, that I have inside of this 4 creatures. And then I have 3 spacecrafts that are kind of in theme for the set or the deck to get value on board as soon as it enters, like this recursion here, +1/+1 counters here. And this one is just a station that will get you somewhere. Right, for +2, other creatures get +1/+1, automatically makes you more of a threat and builds your defense. And then at 12+, it's a 3/5 flying with lifelink. And at that, I don't think you will ever get to the 12+2 too often for this. I think this is just a 2 mana buff for all of your other creatures, for the most part. Other than that, I think this is the best of what we can do, unfortunately. And then for that, I will probably just run basics. Split them probably, well, we have 17. So let's go 5 red. And then the rest split evenly between green and white is probably what I would do on the fly. Right? So 6, 6, 5. Seems like a fairly good number. Other than that, yeah, this is the deck. Unfortunate situation that we're in, but like I said, it's a potential for any pre-release, and you just got to find the best of both worlds. And it's sometimes operating on the fly, and I think a lot of people are going to be in this situation when it comes to pre-release. So you're definitely not going to be alone. This set does not seem very creature heavy in terms of consistent creature cards, so we're definitely going to have to supplement with spacecraft. So just be ready to adjust your pile accordingly. Make sure you have a solid creature base. 12 to 13 is what I'm going to guess. And then just supplement with on-theme stations. And if worst comes to worst, this seems like a very solid station card. At 7 mana, It becomes a 7/7 flyer with 7+ stations and deals 10 damage to target creature. This Pinnacle will definitely be an easy sideboard in a lot of situations, especially when big creatures hit board. So keep that in mind. I like those a lot, but I don't like them enough to put them in main board for this deck because we're already extremely high end and we're very clustered up here. So definitely a sideboard situation to pay attention to. And with that, I hope this helps you guys because we have a solid, low mana curve creatures that kind of do their job, and then we have a very solid on-theme bomb section that's up here. Cares about the lands you control, brings things back, +1/+1 counters, cares about landfall. So you're kind of mixing the Selesnya, Gruul, +1/+1 counter strategies that are for Edges of Eternity. So yeah, I think that is the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys in the next one. And if you have any questions, drop in the comment section down below.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching the stream. If you want to pick up any of the cards you just saw Aaron open, you can stop by Superscript Comics and Games, located in Lakewood, Ohio, or check us out online at superscriptohio.com. Take care.